Welcome to another installment of Rookie's Roundup. I'm your host, Jake Liker, aka Rookie, and it is currently 9:11 p.m. here in LA, and we've got a great broadcast for you guys tonight. I'm in complete football mode right now because I just finished a fantasy draft. We are now officially less than 2 weeks away from football season starting, and I can't wait. Can't wait, man. Cannot wait.
Congratulations. See you in Pittsburgh. Can't wait.
Oh, that interview with Sal Paolantonio. That's going to be the highlight of his whole career. Oh, I remember the olden days when the Jets would make it to the playoffs. Well, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. That's why you can't wait. But of course, here on the show, it's not all just going to be NFL. So here's tonight's lineup for Rookie Roundup. First, we'll give you some quick hits to provide you the latest news in all of sports, including the NBA, MLB, and the NFL. Then another installment of Rookie's Rant, and then we'll break down two more divisions in the NFL, the AFC and the NFC South. We got analysis, we got predictions, and we got two more guests to help me out with the AFC and the NFC South. And then, of course, as always, we will end the show by giving out our three awards: the MVP award, the Facepalm award, and the sympathy vote. Of course, somewhere along the way, we might be able to give you a fantasy tip, but the fun doesn't stop there. We'll do it all over again tomorrow night when we break down the AFC East and NFC East to finish up all 8 divisions. Next week, school starts for me, which sucks because, summer just goes by so fast, but it means I am going to have to cut back to 1 episode a week, but maybe 2 if I do one on Friday night. Next week is also the last week before regular season football, which means there will be playoff analysis and predictions next week on Rookie's Roundup. It's time to make our picks next week. We got 1 week left. Of course, everyone has their own opinions and predictions, so if you want yours to be heard, call into the show at 310-922-9536. If you aren't listening to the show live but still have a question or just something to say, write it in the comment section and I will answer on tomorrow's Sunday night show. Of course, Rookie's Roundup is part of the National Sports family on Spreaker.com. It's been another great week for national sports, as this week we got a 300th follower on Spreaker, as well as our 30,000th play. 30,000. So that means every show we've ever done on this site now has combined for over 30,000 listeners, so big thank you to you guys listening. As for this show, Rookie's Roundup in particular, our first 2 shows have at least 100 plays each, and our third episode, the NFL special, which is my personal favorite, is heading towards 90. So keep listening to the show, tell your friends, tell your family, your neighbors, anyone. Shout it from the rooftops, share the link on Facebook or Twitter, because the more people listening, the better. So again, a big thank you to everyone listening, because it really does mean a lot to me. I mean, everyone wants a voice and to be heard, and to know that I just talk about sports into my laptop and people want to listen, it's just incredible to me. So, of course, big thank you to you guys listening. Of course, follow everything on National Sports, though. We always got great stuff going on. Like us on our Facebook page, National Sports. Follow us on Twitter at @AllCapsNationalSports1. And check out our Instagram page at @National_Sports. So let's get right to it. It's time for quick hits. We'll start off with the NBA. The Golden State Warriors are hoping the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree because they officially signed Steph Curry's little brother from Duke, Seth. According to Marcus Thompson from the Bay Area News Group, Seth picked Golden State over a basketball team in Barcelona because he thinks he has a good shot of earning a roster spot in the Warriors' backcourt, and even if he doesn't make the roster, he's still interested in the Warriors' D-League team in Santa Cruz, which has built a reputation for developing players and getting them into the league. And, personally, I like the move a lot. It's your ideal low-risk, high-reward situation, and the reward is even more 3 points for the Warriors. I mean, I think Golden State's a team to look out for this year. They could win the entire Western Conference before we know it. Just don't be surprised if it happens. The Warriors are here to play. Let's not forget about them. Keep that in the back of your head. Well, we'll get to that, next month when we start our NBA predictions. Moving on to the Lakers. According to Slam, the Los Angeles Lakers owner Jim Buss said that he would be, quote, more than happy to have the Zen master himself, Phil Jackson, as a consultant within the Lakers organization. They're also even considering using Phil as a color commentator to broadcast Laker games. The only problem I can see with that is that Phil would not be, he'd probably ask not to do the games that are anywhere on the East Coast. Oh, Phil. The Lakers probably would have hired him if he offered, to coach all the games. I mean, you're the Zen Master. You can handle it. Go into the East Coast. We'll see if he can handle broadcasting. And lastly, a rumor's been going around that New York will soon host its first NBA All-Star game since 1998. That year, Michael Jordan won another All-Star Game MVP, and some 19-year-old named Kobe Bryant became the youngest All-Star ever. Of course, yesterday, it was Kobe's birthday. I'm an LA kid, big Laker fan. He's something else to watch, so happy birthday to Kobe. Get well soon. Anyway, so there's more, though. According to Fred Kerber of the New York Post, the Knicks and the Nets would split the 2015 All-Star Game. The Barclays Center, the home of the Nets, would host the Friday and Saturday events like the dunk contest, if that even still counts as a real contest with all the no-names they have now, and the skill challenge and all the other stuff. Maybe Kevin Hart can win MVP somewhere and Kevin Love can win it the other. I'm kidding. K-Love is not winning All-Star Game MVP. But speaking of the All-Star Game, the Madison Square Garden, of course, the home of the Knicks, would host the actual All-Star Game on Sunday. And it might get even better for the Big Apple, well, depending on how you look at it. In 2017 or 2018, the Knicks and the Nets would switch, with the Knicks hosting the Friday and Saturday stuff, and the Nets hosting the actual All-Star Game. Now we go to some MLB action. We're coming down the stretch. There's a lot of good stuff going on. We had the Tigers-Mets. It's not often when you see the Detroit Tigers play the New York Mets, and it's worthy of a highlight. But this one was because they had Matt Harvey for the Mets on the mound, facing off with Max Scherzer. At the end of this one, Detroit had 15 hits, and the Mets had 3. Detroit came out with a 3-0 victory. Harvey struck out Scherzer struck out 11 in 6 innings, and Max Scherzer becomes the third pitcher in MLB history to win 19 of his first 20 decisions. That's incredible. Now here's the deal. I write my scripts about an hour or two before the show, and I'll write down a game to recap, thinking that, it'll be over by then. Well, yeah, the Phillies and Diamondbacks decided to stump me up here because when I wrote this, it was the middle of the 9th. It was tied at 7. I'm like, they'll maybe go to the 10th or the 11th. I couldn't have been more wrong. Right now, they are in the bottom of the 13th inning, but we can still tell you how they got there. The Diamondbacks built a big lead early on. They were up 6-0 in the 5th. They were up 7-1 in the 6th, and then things started turning around. Bernardina homered to center for the Phils, making it 7-2. Rollins scored on a wild pitch, making it 7-3. In the 8th inning, a sacrifice fly from Utley made it 7-4. A Ruiz single makes it 7-5. And Ruff homers to left center to tie it at 7. And there is still more baseball to be had in Philadelphia. We are tied at 7 apiece in the 13th there. Now some NFL news. The Green Bay Packers, not too long ago, signed Vince Young. Most people didn't think much of it, but it turns out Vince Young has won the battle for backup quarterback. At least many reports are saying that the Green Bay Packers have released their previous backup quarterback, Graham Harrell. So Vince Young is still going to be in the league and possibly is the backup to Aaron Rodgers. Last, we got the Dodgers and Red Sox. It's not often that I have a Dodgers game to talk about in which the Dodgers lose, but Boston found a way. They did it early on. It was a battle between John Lester and Hyunjin Ryu. Final score, Boston 4, Dodgers 2. Ryu struck out 7, but gave up 4 runs in the first inning. Lester got his 12th win of the season. Final score, Boston 4, LA 2. Back to NFL. Sorry, I'm mixing it up. We'll bat out of order, as they say. So back to the NFL. I want to put this off as long as I can. Yeah, that's a good excuse. I want to not utter this man's name, but we've been given no choice. Mark Sanchez, he who shall not be named. Mark Sanchez is left early in the fourth quarter of the Giants-Jets preseason game. It seems that when the Giants and the Jets play each other every year in preseason, there always seems to be one big player that gets injured. I'm going to look at that because it seems to me every year there's always one player in that game that gets injured. Well, speaking of that Giants-Jets game, though, well, it was interesting. The Jets defeated the Giants 24-21 in overtime. And both quarterbacks for the Jets, Smith and Sanchez, have seen better days. Sanchez had to leave in the fourth. Smith had a tough time. He's fitting in perfectly with the Jets. He stepped out of the back of the end zone for safety. Before we know it, we could see Greg McElroy starting there. You could just hand the ball off every time to Chris Ivory. Maybe just go full-time Wildcat. Anything to keep the ball out of Mark Sanchez and Geno Smith's hands seems like a better alternative for the Jets. Other scores, the Buccaneers defeated the Dolphins 17-16. On Thursday, we didn't see this coming. It's preseason, but still. Detroit knocked off the Patriots 40-9 in preseason. Reggie Bush had 5 catches for 103 yards. And the defense for the Lions forced 4 turnovers. It's saying something, Preseason, it's like, it's tough to really judge a team from preseason unless it's such a wide margin. 49 over the Patriots. But I don't know. I'm not gonna get my hopes up. So we're gonna be right back. We're going to have Rookies Roundup. Again, if you want to call in or you have an opinion, leave a comment. Call in 310-922-9536. In the meantime, we're going to take our first commercial break. Last week we had some technical difficulties. Hopefully my amazing segues into songs will work. So stay right there. See if you can pick up on it. We'll be right back.
Your presentation of national sports is brought to you by Spreaker.com. Broadcast and listen to news, radio, and music with one low monthly rate. Your show will be right back after this word from your local stations.
Top spot title, spent the hour in the bathroom, walk out looking like a model. God, doing what you do, got me right there with Apollo on the moon. Booty genies in a bottle, girl, the bay already got you.
Welcome back to Rookies Rant. Well, Rookies Roundup, but it is time for one of my favorite segments, Rookies Rant. So tonight I'm going to be ranting about what went down in Fenway Park about 5 days ago. But, yesterday's news, I guess, but I feel like maybe I can give a spin on it. Anyway, if you didn't... Oh, hold on. We got a caller, actually, before we get on. Hey, you're on with Rookies Roundup. Who's this?
This is Carl.
Oh, hey, Carl.
I just wanted to ask you some more about those NFL quarterbacks. I know you really hate Mark Sanchez. I was wondering, is there any other quarterbacks in the NFL you really dislike, and can you tell me why?
I mean, I don't like Mark Sanchez as, like, a person. I mean, he used to be good, but God, like, the way he's playing these days, it's just so bad. I mean, it's him and, yeah, he's just kind of in a league of his own right now. I mean, there were those days when the Vikings had Tavares Jackson. I'm sure they wish they'd forgotten about that. The Cardinals had to go a year with Kevin Call, but, I mean, the way Sanchez is playing, it's just like, it's kind of like JaVale McGee. He's not a terrible player. It's just the stupid mistakes he makes. Like, when you run into your own offensive lineman and fumble the ball, like, you're going to get flack, and you're not going to get the respect you should be getting in the NFL.
Well, thank you.
No problem, Carl. Anytime. I had to mention Tavares Jackson. Carl's a big Vikings fan, and it was too tempting. I had to go for it. But, yeah, I mean, hate's a strong word when it comes to Mark Sanchez. It's just, it's just the mistakes he makes. Like, JaVale McGee, he's not bad. He just makes those mistakes that he shouldn't be making at this point in his career. And I like Geno Smith, and it's kind of a shame that, he's already making mistakes. Hopefully, it's just a preseason thing, and he'll get into the swing of things. So now, we'll get started with the rookies rant. So 5 days ago, Fenway Park, Monday, Red Sox pitcher Ryan Dempster went up against Alex Rodriguez in the second inning, and we'll just play the audio for you, what you're about to hear. So second inning, you're going to hear I'll walk you through it. Just listen up. So as soon as he walks up, I mean, of course, it's expected. The Red Sox fans are hollering at him, calling him a cheater, which he is, basically. And then things start to get a little out of hand. Crowd starts cheering after Dempster takes the first pitch. It's an 89-mile-an-hour fastball that actually goes behind Rodriguez and almost hits him in his leg. The clip skips over the next two pitches, which also run inside. It's now a 3-0 count, and Dempster is still going for something. Fourth pitch, fourth straight ball, and he drills him. The crowd goes wild, and then the umpire decides he's just gonna issue warnings. So Yankees manager Joe Girardi comes out. He's livid. He's screaming at home plate umpire Brian O'Nora for not ejecting Dempster, and he gets so upset. He's making all these hand motions, and he got pretty close to O'Nora's chin, and that was the last straw. So it ended up being Girardi getting ejected, and not Dempster. So when all was said and done, Girardi's ejected, the bench is cleared, but no punches were thrown, and A-Rod later hit a home run as the Yankees won in a come-from-behind victory 9-6. And there are four people or groups that just really made me mad here. Like, this was just immature. It was just sad. So first, there's the obvious one. There's Ryan Dempster. You see, you gotta be doing something really bad to make people sympathize with Alex Rodriguez. Don't stoop to his level. A-Rod's already the bad guy. Don't give anyone a reason to make you think you're the bad guy. Like, I mean, he's put me in a position where Alex Rodriguez is going to say a quote, and I completely agree with it. Like, well, listen, he said, quote, "Whether you like me or hate me, that was wrong. That was unprofessional and silly. It was kind of a silly way to get someone hurt on your own team as well," unquote. don't give us a reason to sympathize with A-Rod. We all already hate him. He's already dug himself into his own grave. You don't need to help out. It's just stupid, though. Like, why are you throwing the fourth fastball? Like, this isn't like an off-speed pitch. These are 4 fastballs in a row. And what he says later, I'll get to that later, but I mean, to throw 4 fastballs in a row at a guy, like the first pitch you can establish your position on the plate, but as it goes on, it's just kind of ridiculous to a point. And by the 4th pitch on 3 and out, just let him take his base. He gets it. You don't like him. No one likes him. So there's Dempster. Second, you've got the umpire Brian O'Nora. No ejection for Dempster on 4 straight pitches. I mean, Girardi's ejection is understandable when he comes that close to your face. But you're sending the wrong message. As a home plate umpire, you have a responsibility to make sure the game runs smoothly as possible and ensure player safety. You set a precedent when someone throws a ball 4 straight times at someone and you don't eject them. You send the wrong message and you say, all right, fine. You guys can play that game here, and they're not going to be consequences. I mean, listen to what Girardi said. Quote, you can't start throwing at people. People have had concussions. Lives are changed by getting hit by pitches. Whether I agree with everything that's going on, you don't throw it at people, and you don't take the law into your own hands. You don't do that. We're going to skip the judicial system? It's my cousin Vinny all over again. End quote. Again, and just don't send that message. If you're going to throw 4 straight times at a guy, Dempster's got to get ejected. At least he was later suspended. Third are the fans, and I'm not as mad about this, because they're Red Sox fans. It's Red Sox, it's Yankees, you're supposed to hate each other. And, like, even when you're yelling, you're a cheater, like, that's fine. But when you're cheering when Rodriguez gets hit, it's the same thing as Dempster. You're stooping to Rodriguez's level. Because now you've become no worse than him. You're just, don't give us a reason to sympathize with A-Rod. It's just immature from the fans. Like, that's not the image you want to give to Red Sox nations. And then you have this, when Dempster leaves, he's given up 7 runs in 5 1/3 innings, and he gets a standing ovation. That's despicable when you've given up 7 runs. But what's worse is they're giving him a standing ovation because he hit Rodriguez. Like, this isn't the Mafia. This isn't Gladiators. It's play ball. And don't cheer for the guy if he's done terrible and he's going to be the reason that you lose to the Yankees and A-Rod. Again, I'm going to go to Joe Girardi for this one. He said, quote, what is wrong with people? You cheer when someone gets hit. I'm going to say it again. What if that were your son? What if your son got hit? Breaks an arm, gets hit in the head, has a concussion. I would be embarrassed. End quote. And I agree. I mean, there comes a point where even if it is a bitter rivalry, you just gotta take a step back, Red Sox fans. And then 4th, and this was the most frustrating to me, the bullcrap the Red Sox players spewed after the game. Listen to what Dempster says when asked about it. He said, quote, I was just trying to pitch inside, end quote. Like, it gets worse, though, and his manager sticks up for him. Manager John Farrell says, quote, he was trying to establish his fastball. Obviously, the pitch got away from him. We didn't feel in our dugout it was anything intentional, end quote. That's bullcrap, and you know it, and everyone knows it. If you're going to be pathetic enough to throw at someone, at least own up to it. Like, God, have you no shame? At least someone, however, with the Red Sox steps up. And if you guessed David Ortiz on the first guess, you'd be right. So he gives 2 quotes here that make sense. First, why it's morally wrong to do that. He said, quote, I didn't like it. I don't think it was the right thing to do, but we don't all think alike, and the guy who did it, Dempster, is a great guy. It's not that I didn't think it was right because Alex and I are friends, because once you cross the white lines, everyone's on their own. End quote. And then, from a strategic standpoint, he makes another good point here. Ortiz said, quote, but we've got Tampa right on our heels, and that pitch woke up a monster in the Yankees team at that moment. You saw how the game ended up. CC Sabathia was throwing 91 miles an hour and started throwing 96 after he hit Rodriguez. Alex later hit one way out of there. You're talking about a good team that you can't wake up, but we learn from our mistakes, end quote. just the whole thing from this, don't stoop down to A-Rod's level. Don't act like 2-year-olds. That goes to the players, that goes to the fans, that goes to Ryan Dempster. That was pathetic. And if it were me, I'd be throwing out the next Red Sox hitter that gets up. If they want to play that game, then let's go. It's just pathetic. It's shameful. It's immature. It's what's the word I'm looking for here? Oh, we lost the soundbite. I think you guys knew where I was going with it. I was going to give you another blasphemous from Stephen A. Smith, but, that's what happens when you keep it open for a week. Oh, no. Fine. I could try and do an impression. Like, that is blasphemous. That is blasphemous. No. It's not as good as the real thing. It's a shame. But whatever. Anyway, that was Rookie's Rant. When we get back, we go over the AFC South and the NFC South. The AFC South is first. We're going to try another clever segue. We will see you on the other side. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. We'll be right back.
Contact National Sports in a number of ways through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter with the label National Sports. We love to have you guys a part of our show and can easily join us also through text or call. You're listening to the National Sports radio station on Spreaker.com.
I don't like commercials. We're cutting that one short. We're going to keep moving here. We need to take a break. Let's go. All day. I can do this all night. It's easy to talk about sports, and it's especially easy to talk about football. But what it's not easy to do is to predict. And so, of course, I got to bring a guy in here to help me out. We're going to start off with the AFC South, where we'll get the Titans, you got the Texans, you got the Jaguars, you get the Colts. Just call it right now. And meanwhile, of course, we're going to try and go over the standings and whatnot. Hey, Jared. Alright, this is a dear friend of mine, as Stephen Ed would say. Jared Bacon. We know each other for a long time, and if this guy doesn't know his stuff, then no one does. How you doing, Jared?
Good, how are you?
Alright, so, you ready to do some AFC South?
I am.
Alright, so here's the big question. First of all, Texans or Colts? Who wins this division? Because the Colts gave the Texans a run for their money last year.
I'm going to have to go with the Texans this year because both teams are pretty equal offensively. Indianapolis, Luck, and Houston, Shaw. I like Houston's run game a little bit better, falls over Radical. And I hope the Houston defense with J.J. Watt and everything will be a huge for them. So I think that Houston will win the
Yeah. I don't know, though. I mean, Luck makes it tough. I mean, the comebacks they came up with. Let's just, you take a look at Houston's schedule, though. What's the trap game for Houston? What's the game that they shouldn't lose, that they could easily end up going down in?
I said their Week 16 matchup against Denver. I think that one will be a tough game for them. In the season, down the stretch, I think that Denver can pull it out.
Yeah, just Denver's too good late in the season. Although they got easy division matches. I mean, they could go 6-0. Probably going to go 5-1. I don't think they're winning in Indy. They always seem to have a weak spot against the Colts, but this is a strong team. This team can play. Although I don't know how it's going to work out with the Patriots. Like, that's a tough game in Week 13, but they're a good team when you get down to it. They're pretty loaded on offense and on defense, especially with how fast you guys are on the outside with wide receivers and defensive backs. Who's the X factor this year for the Texans?
The who? And not a very good connection right now. Sorry, Jake.
So, it's all right. Yeah. Who's going to be the X factor this year for the Texans? Who's most likely to have the breakout year?
I think the X factor will be Arian Foster, just because his health issues. If he can stay healthy, he can have 1,500 all-purpose yards. But if he can't, that's going to be a huge blow to Houston. So I think he is the X factor.
Yeah, I mean, especially if he does get injured, you're stuck with Ben. You're stuck with Ben Tate. I mean, you're in a tough spot. I mean, if you ask me though, this year I am 11-5 for the Texans. I think that road games against tough opponents are going to trip them up. And again, I just don't know if this team has what it takes to go deep into the playoffs if you look at how other teams have progressed.
Yeah, and looking at their schedule again, in Week 3 they play Baltimore, in Week 4 they play Seattle, in Week 5 they play San Francisco. So those are 3 tough games, back to back to back. So it's going to be how they handle it. And if they can beat these good teams, especially San Francisco and Baltimore on the road.
Yeah. So let's go on to the Colts here. So with Indy, again, they're a team that just pulled together some great wins last year. Really impressive stuff. But are they going to be able to do it again this year? Because a lot of people seem to be predicting a big slump this year for them. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that just looking at their schedule right now, they have a pretty easy schedule. I mean, their toughest games is going to be at San Francisco, and then they play Houston twice, obviously, and also their game against Denver again. Denver is, I think, a tough team to beat in the AFC right now.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the Colts, I mean, it was so improbable what they did last year, and they had the fire with the whole Pagano thing. And I just don't know if it's still going to be there. I mean, I have faith in the Colts. I really do. And it wouldn't surprise me if they made the playoffs. But, over the past few weeks, I've been looking at this team, and I'm starting to get nervous about them. Because they start off with an easy-ish schedule, but you've got this tough little stretch here just before the bye. You're going to have to play... You have to play San Francisco, Seattle, San Diego, in Denver, and Jacksonville, which isn't really. But still, I mean, those are 4 tough teams in 5 games.
It is, and it really is just going to depend on how they play. That stretch could make or break their season, because if they lose to San Diego, I mean, that's a game that they should win. But if they lose that game and they lose to Seattle and Denver and San Francisco, that's 4 losses right there. And that's going to be pretty hard to recover from.
Yeah, you can't... The Colts are in a position where they clearly just can't lose games that they shouldn't. You can't afford a loss against the Titans. You can't afford a loss against the Chargers. Although the one game I think that they will lose that most people won't see coming, Week 10. I think they're going to be pretty drained after playing in Houston. They come back to home and... the Rams. I don't know. I like St. Louis in Indianapolis there. I think that can be a big trap game for them.
It is, but I think Indianapolis will come on top. If you look at St. Louis right now, their defense is just average, and their offense, you have Sam Bradford at quarterback, and they've lost Steven Jackson, so they've lost a huge part of their running game. So I don't know how they're going to do this year, especially against a good team like the Colts.
Yeah. You never know. Indianapolis is just a tough team to call. But there are 2 other teams in this division that are always difficult to predict. One of them especially being the Tennessee Titans. You just never know what to expect with the Titans because, some years they'll be 9-7 storming toward the end of the season and just missing the playoffs. But then again, you're stuck with Jake Locker. And Chris Johnson, trying to get back to where he used to be, and a tough way to start the season. You have to start in Pittsburgh and then in Houston. What's it going to be this year for Tennessee?
I don't think that they're going to have a very good year this year. I mean, they have a lot of tough opponents, and they're not that good of a team. I mean, Jake Walker is not an elite quarterback by any means. He is an okay quarterback, but he's not going to be able to lead this team into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs. You can't just give the ball to Chris Johnson 60 times a game. Defenses are going to game plan around Johnson and stop him, so it's all about if Walker steps up.
Completely
You
agree.
have the tough games against Pittsburgh, Houston, Seattle, and San Francisco. I don't know what's going to happen to them.
The problem is, Jared, is that we used to disagree on everything when it came to sports, and now more and more we're agreeing on everything, and I don't know if I should be happy or annoyed by it.
I think we should be happy. I think that means we're both becoming more knowledgeable.
Yeah, great minds think alike. Now, how about Jacksonville? Now, we just got the new issue of ESPN magazine, and I read something pretty interesting about how the Jaguars are really trying to crunch the numbers, and that they've got a long way to go. Is this a tank season for the Jaguars and go for the clowning sweepstakes? Or is this actually try and get something done here? Because I think either way, they're ending up toward the bottom.
I think that just Jacksonville is just, they're not a good team. I mean, they struggled last year. They're going to struggle again this year. I mean, when you have Blaine Gabbert at quarterback, you have some problems there. He's looked better in the preseason, but he's not good enough.
He's not good enough. I agree with that. But I think you read that article, you check that out, and Gabbert is better than actually most people think. Apparently, he's got the top QB rating against the 6-man rush. So, but yeah, it doesn't matter. That's still a number at the end of the day. When you have to compete with guys like Andrew Luck and Matt Schaub in your division, I mean, even if you have Maurice Jones-Drew, it's just they're lost cause.
It is. They have really no chance of winning this division or even making the playoffs, especially when you have two division games against Houston and Indianapolis, where you're going to lose both times of those teams. So I say they go 1-5, maybe 2-4 in division. And if you play that poorly in your division, you're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle for the Jaguars. Anyway, yeah, thanks for helping me out with the AFC South. Appreciate it. I'm glad we agree on all this stuff now. One last question before you go. Do the Houston Texans win multiple playoff games this year?
I'm going to have to say yes. Their improved defense, even though it was great last year, their offense is good, and it could even be better this year. And I think that they can win 2 playoff games and possibly make it to the AFC Conference Championship, and maybe, depending on how the other AFC team plays, it's a long shot, but they could make this Super Bowl.
Okay, you are reaching. We finally get some disagreement here. I have lost faith in Houston. They have had their chance year after year, and I think this year, if they end up meeting with Cincinnati's got the better of them. I think the Bengals could go to the Super Bowl. But, I mean, the Texans, there's just too many good teams in the Texans' way. Schaub is not going to beat Peyton Manning in the Broncos, or Tom Brady in the Patriots, or Andy Dalton in the and the Bengals. There's just too many good teams in this conference. The AFC is getting a lot better than most people think. I've just lost faith in the Texans. Schaub is going to have to step it up.
And I think he will. I think he does have a chance to beat Dalton, has a chance to beat Luck in that second playoff game if they get there. And he even has a chance to beat Baltimore and Flacco. But I think the only 2 teams that I know that they can't beat are Peyton Manning and the Broncos and Tom Brady and the Patriots. Those 2 teams, I think, are just going to have to battle it out for the AFC title.
Well, we're making playoff predictions next week, and we are getting pressed for time, so even though I want to disagree with you on that very badly, maybe I'll have you back on next weekend. We've gotten a lot of people with differing opinions on the show. Anyway, though, thanks for coming in, helping me out with the AFC South.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
All right, see you, Biggs. that was Jared Bacon. Again, a dear friend of mine. Who needs Stephen A. Smith sound bites? I can do an impersonation of a Jay Farrow impersonation. God, if you ever get the time. SNL, Jay Farrow, Stephen A. Smith impersonation. It is fantastic. I mean, he really nails it. Well, that leaves one division left and 3 awards to give. So we come back. We're not even going to give you music. We're just going to give you the quick 50-second commercial. We'll be right back because you just can't stop here. We'll be right back with the NFC South. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Sam Rosen, and I'm here with Sam Situation.
Good afternoon and welcome into the corner. It's Chris's Corner here on Spreaker.com, a national sports affiliate.
Hello and welcome to the Cameron Sadeghi Show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Deep Sports Coffee. This is affiliated with National Sports.
Cameron Sadeghi, Chris Sylvester, Sam Rosen, Andrew Goldstein, Daniel Levy, and the entire broadcast crew with Commissioner Robert Dieters. You are live from National Sports Radio Station in Los Angeles, California.
Welcome back to Rookies Roundup. This is it. We got the NFC South, one of the league's most intriguing divisions. And then we've got MVP award, Facepalm award, and of course our sympathy vote. Here we go. So let me just call up the guy who's going to help us out here with the NFC South. Hey Ian, it's Jake.
Jake.
Hey, this is Ian Martin. We met at Sports Broadcasting Camp. Again, he knows a lot about football. He definitely knows his NFC, and he was very happy with the fact that I picked the Seahawks to win it all. So, you ready to break down the NFC South, Ian?
I am. This is going to be a great discussion. I love the NFC South.
They're always interesting, and especially this year, because now you got Sean Payton back with the Saints. You've got Freeman in a contract year. You've got the Falcons who want more, after a disappointing end in the playoffs last year. And then, the Panthers are going to try.
While you just said the Panthers, I'd like to start off talking about the Panthers.
Okay.
They're my biggest sleeper.
Really? The Panthers?
Yeah, I really believe in Cam Newton, that rushing game, Steve Smith. I really like this team. There's something about this up-tempo kind of team. I kind of feel they'll be the Oregon Ducks of the NFL in maybe a year or two, maybe even this year. I feel that strongly about them.
You already have an automatic team that has become the Oregon Ducks of the NFL. When you take the Oregon Ducks head coach, the Philadelphia Eagles have already taken that spot. What is it specifically about Cam Newton that you think gives them the edge in one of the toughest divisions in the National Football League?
Well, one of the things is that the defenses in this league, in the NFC South, are not too stellar. Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Atlanta Falcons have a mediocre defense. The Atlanta Falcons have the New Orleans Saints have a below average defense. But Cam Newton is, if you know who the quarterback for Oregon right now is, Marcus Mariota.
Of course.
He's a fairly big built guy.
Yeah.
Cam Newton's a fairly big built guy. And they kind of play the same style. I think Cam Newton, he's hard to bring down. He's Colin Kaepernick with more speed and just more like...
And less tattoos.
Yes, less tattoos, definitely. He also just has more experience. He's gone up against better teams.
Yeah, but if you look, those are still college teams. Like, here's where I have trouble with Carolina. First, they have that week 4 bye, which is brutal. It's the last one you want to get. And then if you go down their schedule, like if you just start in week 8. Listen to just how brutal it is. You have at Tampa Bay, you have versus Atlanta, at San Francisco, versus New England, at Miami, versus Tampa Bay, at New Orleans, versus the Jets, versus New Orleans, and at Atlanta. Like, that is a brutal finish. Like, I don't know if Cam Newton has what it takes to pull that out. And with all those weeks without a rest, that's a stretch.
That is really a stretch. I'm looking at the schedule right now. I'm not saying they'll be good this year.
Right.
Maybe give them 2 years.
Give them 2 years, I agree. But this, like, we're not looking at a playoff team here. Like, you're not saying they're a playoff team.
No, they are not a playoff team.
I wanted to clear that up. It's like the Panthers are a playoff team. That's interesting me. All right.
You have a really good point. From week 8 on,
it's brutal.
It's almost a loss every game.
Yeah, and then if you look at how Cam has handled disappointment in the past couple of years, it's been tough on him, and you're not making anything easier for him.
Yeah.
No.
We'll move on to
Of course. So you got 3 more teams that are they're ready to compete, and it's almost a toss-up at this point. So here's my question for you. Of those 3 teams, who finishes third in this division? Buccaneers, Saints, or Falcons?
I'm going to have to go with the New Orleans Saints. Will finish third in this division. To me, they're just, I don't know, Drew Brees is still, by far, he's a top 5 quarterback in this league.
Yes.
No doubt. He has 2 good wide receivers, a tight end, Jerry Graham, and he has Lance Moore and Marquise Colston. And like I said earlier, they have a below-average defense. You can't have below-average defense, a good quarterback, and only 2 or 3 good receivers.
No, but those aren't good. Those are great receivers. Here's how I feel about New Orleans. Normally, I'd say all right, but the past few years in football, if you look in 2010, when the Packers and the Patriots both made it very far into the playoffs, and the Packers ended up winning the whole thing. The Packers and the Patriots had the 2 worst defenses yardage-wise in the NFL. Like, these were record-breaking on the wrong side of the books. And the Saints, the thing with New Orleans, they find ways to win. And when you get this team motivated, like if you look at how improbably they won over the Colts in the Super Bowl, and I think there's just going to be, like, the way you feel about the Panthers is the way I feel about the Saints. There's something special here. Like, they have what it takes to win this division.
They do have what it takes to win this division. They have all the pieces, but their defense is, like I said, their defense is below average, and it's not as good as the Falcons. Their offense can go face-to-face with the Falcons and the Buccaneers. The thing separating the Saints from those 2 teams is their defense.
Yeah, the reason I like the Saints winning this division is their ability to play at home, and they've done this before. Matt Ryan has not led his team to a Super Bowl. No, Josh Freeman's in a contract year. Like, I'm afraid he's going to crumble under the pressure from Greg Schiano, because everyone in that organization is sticking with him as the QB. The only reason that he has to play for his life this season is because Schiano doesn't like him. And then you've got Doug Martin. It's a lot of sharing to do, and I don't know if Freeman's up for the pressure the way that Breeze or Ryan could handle it.
You do have a good point. Freeman's not one of these experienced quarterbacks such as Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's a good quarterback, and Drew Brees, like I said, is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. Freeman's just too young. He has the skill set to be a great quarterback. He has the size, he has the speed, but I'm not sure he just has the age.
Yeah.
Hasn't seen enough.
I do hope he does well this year, because I think that Schiano's not seeing it. This guy has the potential to be a great quarterback, but you look at this division, it's arguably the best division in the NFL, besides the NFC West, and even then you can make an argument. This is a division that will have at least 2 teams going to the playoffs. In a division where you have to deal with Cam Newton, Drew Brees, and Matt Ryan, I don't know if Josh Freeman can really get himself into the mix there. That's what just worries about me, about the Buccaneers.
Yeah, when I look at this division, I see 3 top 15 quarterbacks, possibly even 3 top 10 quarterbacks, and then I see Josh Freeman, who, in my mind, in any other division in football, is one of the better quarterbacks in that division. But when you put him in the NFC South, where, like I said, you have 3 very good quarterbacks, it just everything he does is diminished.
So you're saying the same?
Everything he does can get up by Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, or Cam Newton.
So if the Saints are third in that division, you're saying that they're not a playoff team?
Correct? I'm going to say no, they're not a playoff team.
Because, I mean, if 3 teams from that division make it, that means either Seattle or San Francisco is not going to the playoffs, and that's not happening. They're both in. Yeah. So here's the question then. I'm assuming that means you're putting Atlanta at winning this division.
Yeah, Atlanta wins this division easily. Last year, they had a great passing game. I'm not sure if there was a better team passing the ball, but they didn't really have a running game without. And the acquisition of Steven Jackson, I believe, for the Atlanta Falcons will put them over the edge and possibly bring them to that Super Bowl.
I've supported the Falcons for a while, and I think that they don't get enough credit, in the past few years as they've deserved. But they've lost people on defense that are so tough to make up for. When you lose like a guy like John Abraham on the defensive line, that's a big piece of the puzzle to fill. When you lose a strong running back, Falcons, you can't say Steven Jackson's going to come in, who's already past his prime, he's past 1,500 carries now. And they say that of almost everyone, only I read this again. I just got that ESPN magazine. I got it right in my room, but it's something crazy. Guys who've got 1,500 carries, they completely drop off to get to 2,000. I'm worried that Jackson is past his prime and isn't going to fit in Atlanta. I don't think Steven Jackson, if you ask me, is not going to be a reason to get a team like the Falcons to the Super Bowl and a winning division easily. This team, they're going to have a playoff run. I believe that because they have the experience, and I think that they could beat New Orleans in the playoffs. But what worries me about Atlanta is there's just a lot of pieces to this puzzle that are missing that were filled in last year.
Yeah, I think you said that Steven Jackson will not fit in with the Atlanta Falcons, but their rushing game is centered around last year. 2012 was centered around 2 power rushers in Michael Turner and Jacquizz Rogers. The Falcons can throw the ball down the field, and when you get inside the 10-yard line, 5-yard line, just power it in. That's why I'm saying this team will be. It's almost my pick to win the Super Bowl.
The Falcons are your pick to win the Super Bowl.
They're my 2 pick behind my team.
Yeah. I mean, I was a big Falcons supporter. I really like this team. But if you keep looking at them, they just lost so many pieces. How are you going to hold everything up? It's a lot to lose here. You've got a strong receiving core, but also by finishing first in their division, they also have a tough schedule. I mean, last 8 games. You start in week 10 against Seattle, at Tampa Bay, against New Orleans, at Buffalo, at Green Bay, versus Washington, at San Francisco, and versus Carolina. Again, that's not easy.
No, it's not.
You look at John Abraham. in 2012, when Abraham was on the field, they had 27 sacks and 454 dropbacks. But when Abraham was not in the field, he had only 2 sacks on 141 dropbacks. I think he was a very underrated player, and there's going to be a big weakness exposed now that he's gone.
Yeah. One of the main things I think about the Falcons is their defensive backfield. In my view, I'm a Seahawks fan. I know what a great backfield is. Because we have most likely the best defensive backfield in the game right now.
For sure.
I think that the Falcons easily have the second best.
Right. I mean, they have a strong secondary, but you talk about pounding the rock here. How are they going to stop the run? Like when they face off against a guy like Doug Martin, when they face off against a scrambler like Cam Newton, that's what worries me. They're going to get to the playoffs and they can make a run, but they're moving in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I just realized this. Tony Gonzalez, I just made this connection. Tony Gonzalez, I believe this will probably most likely be his last game in the NFL. He's in his upper 30s, and I'm kind of making a connection to Ray Lewis, kind of. How Ray Lewis kind of sparked the Ravens.
They're both charismatic. In their different ways. But
yeah, in different ways. Tony Gonzalez will spark the offense to be one of the best offensive years of all time. And the defense will feed off that. And I believe this team will be like the Ravens last year.
Alright. We're getting pressed for time, so I have no choice but to agree to disagree. Maybe I'll have a call back next week when we do our big playoff prediction show. But, yeah, thank you so much. NFC South is not an easy division to predict. But again, thank you for calling and helping me out here. Appreciate it.
No problem, Jake. I'll be back to be on.
Alright, talk to you later. Ian Martin. There you go. Again, NFC South. That's a tough team. Remember we were talking about last week, me and Cameron, about motivation. When certain teams get this fire, and it's been happening more and more in the past few years in all sports. If you look at what the LA Kings did as an 8th seed, but finishing hot. If you look at the St. Louis Cardinals. If you look at the Packers when they were a 6th seed. If you look at the New York Giants. The teams that can find it in them to generate their own momentum, to be motivated, to want it more than the other guys. I'm not saying that that's going to be a main reason, but that's still a big factor in such a tight contest that is the NFC South. I feel like you can give the Saints the edge. Sorry, I'm just looking for that stat. I've become more of a numbers guy now. It was really interesting. It was something about you don't want to draft the old running backs because at some point they just completely drop off. Which reminds me, I gotta give you that fantasy tip. I'm actually going to find that page from the magazine and give it to you. Straight from the big experts at ESPN. But, of course, if you're, again, remember, we are going to be back on tomorrow night to finish up the last 2 divisions, AFC East, NFC East. And you want to talk about the only division that's harder to predict than the NFC South is the NFC East. It's always a headache trying to figure that one out. Well, until I find it, clearly I can't seem to find it. We are now at the 1 hour mark. We just made Rookie Roundup history. First time ever we have a show going over an hour long. Which means it's probably time to wrap things up. MVP award, Base Palm award, and a sympathy card. Let's do it. We'll get you the Steven Jackson stat tomorrow night. We have to give you guys a cliffhanger. Always leave them wanting more. So, this week's MVP, who should it be? Because there were some pretty impressive feats going on in sports. But I think I'm going to have to give it to those trick shot guys. You ever heard Dude Perfect? They became very famous for pulling off these crazy trick shots, putting them on YouTube. They even got into like a Toyota commercial, I think, where they started to make these videos called stereotype videos. Not like racial stereotypes or anything, just for certain personalities. And the first one they did was was a pickup basketball stereotype. And if anyone could perfectly fit every single stereotype in pickup basketball, like, you've got to watch this video. This is 5 minutes of your life that will be very well spent. So MVP goes to this guy's Dude Perfect for making a great video. Definitely worth watching. The Facepalm Award. Oh boy. Matt Bonner's swag this week wins the Facepalm Award because this man has now starred in a rap music commercial for baby carrots. Look up Matt Bonner, baby carrots. It's enough said. It's, again, a few seconds that are completely worth your time. And then your sympathy card. Our sympathy card goes to the Nebraska Cornhuskers football team. Teams across the country now are starting to pull off these great pranks. Like, if you saw Michigan State, they had the football player dressed up as the jersey mannequin and scared guys as they walked in. And Nebraska tried to one-up them. Basically, head coach Bo Pelini has a strict no cell phone rule in practice, and he basically set it up with the student to with one of the players to have his phone go off and to storm out. I won't spoil it for you. Again, just look up Bo Pelini prank. It's hilarious, though. I've never seen these guys they were so shocked, and when they found out that they were punked, it was hilarious. So again, sympathy to the Nebraska Cornhuskers football team. Facepalm to Matt Bonner's swag. MVP goes to the one and only Dude Perfect. Here we go. That's it. 63 minutes and counting of episode number 4 of Rookies Roundup. We had another great episode tonight, and we're going to have an even better one tomorrow, and we'll all lead up next weekend to the playoff prediction spectacular. I haven't decided what to call it yet, but I'll think of something good. So I've got a week to think of a good pun, and I got a day to get all my stuff ready about the NFC East and the AFC East. Again, big thank you to you guys for listening. Tell your friends, tell everyone. Just the more listeners, the better. It really means a lot to me. And if you got a voice or you have everything to say it. Do something like this. Get on the radio. Do your own show. There's nothing better than using your own voice to have your opinions heard. Yeah, that's it. Check out National Sports. Again, like our page on National Sports on Facebook. On Twitter at all caps National Sports 1. And on Instagram, check out our page National_Sports. We're so close, guys. We are less than 2 weeks away. And the football coverage continues tomorrow night as long with all the other sports. Thank you for being with us. From my room in Los Angeles, Jake Liker, a.k.a. Rookie, signing off, saying good night, and thanks for listening.
Hi from Los Angeles, we thank you for listening to another presentation of the National Sports Radio Station on Spreaker.com.